Pablo Torre, Monica McNutt, Jackie McMullen. New rule proposal for you guys today as well. A 10-second clock for answers or there's a violation. How about that? You know, if the Suns fans really want to have some fun, they would count out of order. Also, the cup is in the building. Let's go.
Oh, let that cup run us over, shall we?
I feel like the rule directed at me, but don't take it personally.
How's that?
Chris Paul waited his whole career to get to the NBA Finals, and as far as first games go, that'll do. 32-9. He was orchestrating everything, Monty Williams said. DeAndre Ayton, he had a Shaquille O'Neal type line, 22-19 in his first game. Booker, in his first NBA Finals game, a huge line. So the Suns showed up for the Bucks to see Giannis come out and look like Wolverine. Even he was healthy and dunking on faces. But game one goes to Phoenix. Jackie McMullen, what's your takeaway?
My takeaway was the steely precision with which the Bucks went on a seek and destroy mission, Tony, on switches. They got their pick and roll going, and they hunted mismatches throughout this game.
Yeah.
Suns, yes. They hunted mismatches throughout this game, of course orchestrated by Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Whenever they saw Bobby Portis on them, Brook Lopez on them, so much so that they ran those two guys out of the game. I think they played 32 seconds in the fourth quarter when finally the Bucks went small and had a limited amount of success. But even in that scenario, Tony, what did Chris Paul do? He sought out new mismatches. He got back Connaughton on him. He drilled a jumper over him. When Bryn Forbes was in the game to give a little three-point shooting to try to get the Bucks to score, they hunted him down and they made him pay. I want to add one thing too. Defensively, because no one's talking about this about the Suns, they were incredible. Their precision on defense was every bit as impressive as what they did on the offense.
But since you started with what Phoenix did so well, I'll turn to Monica McNutt. The pick and roll always gets mentioned. This is not a new fad. The pick and roll has been around basketball for about 75 years, Monica, maybe 100 years. What do you see? What's your number one takeaway from last night?
Well, when I look at the Sun squad, I think of their character and their continuity and the confidence with which they played. Jackie mentioned that run with that small lineup that the Bucks were able to go on late. It was a 9-point game with about 6 minutes or so to go. And who comes up with a huge stop on the two-time MVP? Cam Johnson off the bench. So to me, the way that this Phoenix Sun squad can't necessarily be just dictated by a box score. They are confident, they're holding one another accountable, everyone knows their roles, and they're certainly playing their part.
Pablo Torre, number one takeaway from Phoenix Game 1 win.
Yeah, it is Chris Paul regaining his divinity as the point guard. And you mentioned the pick and roll, Tony. What we have in Chris Paul is somebody who runs that as well as anybody we have ever seen. Someone whose brain is operating at a speed faster than anybody else's. So he has options. He knows what's about to happen. And then he goes and chooses which is the best play in that given moment. And in this game, the best play often was Chris Paul. And so what we have is a guy who had 41 to end the last series, 32 in this game. I don't know how you play the point guard position better when you are coming off of COVID protocol, have torn ligaments in your hand, and have a busted up shoulder while everybody's complaining about how he faced a field full of injuries. The dude himself is the picture-perfect point guard for these playoffs.
And Bill Plaschke, number one takeaway from Phoenix's game.
Yeah, I agree with Pablo. This is about Chris Paul. You see this a lot of times in the playoffs when he gets down to the finals, a veteran trying to win a first ring, going nuts, owning this scene, owning the moment. Chris Paul did that. He scored or assisted on 54 points. He scored against 5 different defenders. The Suns were 9 for 16 on his passes. He was unstoppable. Now, I don't know if he can keep this up, but this is his best 2-game back-to-back playoff games in his career since 2008. So he hasn't done this in a long time, but he's determined, and I think he's not going to let them lose. That's the feeling I got.
Jackie, if I can, maybe I'm naive. Go back to you here on the pick and roll, the new fad of the NBA. This pick and roll that Milwaukee can't possibly. They're just flabbergasted and flummoxed by. Go ahead.
Well, but it's not that simple, Tony. So a lot of the times what the Bucks will do in their defensive set is they'll drop, but they make them pay with that too. The reason the pick and roll is so successful is you have two of the best mid-range jumpers maybe ever, and absolutely the two best mid-range jump shooters in the league. To add to Bill's stat, over the last 2 games, Bill, Chris Paul has either scored unassisted on 122 points. Just sit on that for a minute. It's unbelievable.
Well, we'll sit on that, and we'll give you that nice little background behind you that makes you look like a genius. Monica, talk to me about Milwaukee, all right? They've been down 0-1 in this postseason before, and for Giannis to come back like he did when he was doubtful, then he was questionable, then he's receiving an alley-oop 10 seconds into the game. Can Milwaukee feel good after Game 1?
I think they should be okay. Absolutely, there are adjustments that need to be made. They have to figure out how they want to strategize against this pick and roll. But I think about some tweaks that they can make offensively that aren't exactly rocket science. This is a team that was 4th in the league in transition points. The Phoenix Suns were 12th in the league in transition points. Yesterday, they didn't get out in transition much at all. And we see that they're struggling to really get it going in a fluid way in the half-court set. So I think there's room for them to really dominate the glass, look for some second-chance opportunities, and get out in transition. It's a hard day's work at the office to set up and work that shot clock.
Pablo, when you saw Milwaukee play last night, did you think, well, they could come into form here seeing Giannis as healthy as he was?
Yeah, Giannis is so much healthier than I thought. The warning sign, though, that I will share with Milwaukee as somebody who rooted for Joel Embiid in these playoffs is you can come back from injury, but that second half of these games, you get tired, man. When your legs are busted like that, you lose the aerobic, courage and fortitude. You just get tired. You break down over time. And so the good news for the Bucks here, even more than Giannis, is the Suns. Can this be a team that continues to shoot close to 90% from the free throw line while getting so many more opportunities? To me, that's what felt a little anomalous. And if I'm the Bucks, I'm hanging my hat on maybe that will regress to the mean.
Anomalous. Regression to the mean. What do you mean? Did you say aerobic courage? That's what you said, aerobic courage? Some people would just call that the guy gets tired. You're calling about the courage of Plasky, do you have anything on Milwaukee?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Bucks probably aren't all that worried right now. They've been here before. Giannis is getting his feet under him. Holiday is going to make more than 4 baskets. They're going to pound him more inside. Yeah. They've seen Phoenix, and I've seen Phoenix against the Lakers and the Clippers have complete bust games after great games. These are still young kids. Ayton and Booker still haven't been here before. They go up and down, hot and cold. I think the Bucks still have a decent chance to win this.
Jackie, last word on this.
Yeah, the other thing I would say is Monica was talking about transition. You can't go in transition unless the other team misses. And you can't expect Phoenix to shoot from the floor the way they've shot either as well from the free throw line. Things do sort of...
The free throw line, you just brought it up. The free throw with Giannis, and the Phoenix fans were incredible. I mean, they waited 28 years to get back to the finals. Is this working, Monica, or is it white noise at this point, you think, for Giannis when he's on that line?
I think it's white noise. Giannis couldn't shoot free throws before the chant. He's still struggling to shoot them at a high clip consistently after the chant. At this point, I kind of wonder if fan bases will stop counting and just see how he responds, because he might be expected.
Really? I mean, okay, I thought the exact opposite. Pablo, how about you?
Yeah, you gotta mix up the numbers, man. He's just relying on you as a natural clock. And anyone who's counted a large amount, I mean, not that I've done this, but a large amount of money before, right? It's really important. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to mix it up. Throw a 5 when there should be a 7. Throw them off.
We've been horned.
It works, Tony. It works. Wait, Tony, I've got to tell you, I got a number. It works. 59% free throws at home, 50% on the road. It works.
Okay. I mean, both are not good, and that's what he is as a shooter. I mean, the guy shoots 55%. Yeah. I mean, that's what he is.
And I get no points. I get no points for that great stat. Okay, well.
Oh, 10, 4, 3, 6. Yeah, I'll mix it up for you, Plasky. Let's go. Adam Silver stayed in the league address. Let's talk about that. We moved on. Silver said he has no doubt the injuries went up this year because of the condensed season. For him to admit that, I want your take on that. And then he also addressed the play-in tournament. He said, despite some critiques from some people, like LeBron James, is here to stay. Bill Plaschke, where do you want to start?
I am thrilled that the play-in tournament's here to stay. That's the biggest takeaway. That's the biggest concrete fact that Silver talked about. I think it was a great tournament. It got the league and people in the league involved late in the season. It resulted in the Lakers' finest playoff moment. LeBron's shot against Steph Curry. A memorable game, memorable games, memorable stretch runs. I'm glad it's here.
Pablo Torre.
Yeah, the number one job of Adam Silver as commissioner of the NBA is to not get in a fight with LeBron James when LeBron James is all too happy to get in a fight with you, because what he wants to establish, LeBron James does, is that this season was somehow asterisk worthy. If you read his Twitter account, that's what he's trying to establish. There's the injuries, there's the whole compressed season, and all of that has some grain of truth. But if you're Adam Silver, you also know, right? The players agreed to this system because everybody wants the bigger pie of money. That's why we did it. That's why they'll keep on doing it. And Adam Silver basically established nothing's changing on that front.
Monica?
Well, I'm so sick of this asterisk conversation. We all are navigating life after or through or at the tail end of a pandemic, and so is the NBA too. But one thing that I took away from Silver's comments was his comments on diversity, and Becky Hammon in particular, and coaching in the league. Do I think we'll get there? Yes. Do I think we are especially close? Honestly, not really. But I do think that your leadership continuing to voice interest and hoping that this happens helps. I think ultimately it's going to require some players throwing their weight behind her or another candidate.
Jackie McMullen.
Well, I agree with those comments, Monica, and think how long it has taken for the black assistant coaches to get to that head coaching position. So the women are on probably a similar trajectory, unfortunately. I was more taken than the rest of the panel with Adam's admission that, yes, injuries and the pandemic and everything that has happened has taken their toll both physically and emotionally, because I haven't heard him say that before. All the stuff that the NBA kept putting out was, there aren't more injuries this year than last year. There's this many ACLs and all of that. I mean, the truth of the matter is we know that rest helps players. I'm not saying it helps them prevent injuries, but we know that it helps them from falling off a cliff and performing at a higher rate. We have lots of data that tells us that. He mentioned the fact that there were only 72 games this year, Tony. Wouldn't it be nice if the NBA kept it that way? 72 games for their average.
You think there's any possibility of that, Jackie?
I don't, because they've
chance.
lost too much money over the last couple of seasons. No.
McMullen 21, McNutt 20, Flashkey 11, and people wondering about the aerobic fortitude and courage of Pablo Astori. Will he have enough fortitude and courage in the aerobic atmosphere to compete and buy or sell next? An exit like this, buy or sell this being the beginning or the end for Fed?
This is probably the middle of the end for Fed. This is, he was 1 for 9 on rallies of at least 9 shots. He was 1 for 9. This is the second fastest loss he's ever had at Wimbledon. It's the first time he's been 6-0 at Wimbledon. He just didn't look the same. He looked like the 39-year-old tennis player who's going down the other side of the hill.
Pablo Torre?
Yeah, he said afterwards that he felt like he needed to take a nap. And Tony, there's a scientific term for that. It is lacking aerobic courage. He is just not there.
How does he do
there.
it? Well done, Pablo Torre. Well done.
And so, yes, it feels like close to the end, in other words, scientifically speaking.
Very scientific. Monica McNutt.
This is a guy that won his first Wimbledon in 2003. I will say that I think the pandemic has caused all of us, including our athletes, to be a little bit more reflective. He talked leading into this one about what it meant for his 4 kids and his wife not to be with him. And while he said he could navigate it, he certainly missed them not being there. His head is still up. He's not sure what's around the corner. But I agree with Flashkey. There's probably less room on the rest of the runway behind him.
And Jackie McMullen.
I don't know, a little hard for me to watch today. I'm such a fan of Federer because he's always so gracious whether he wins or he loses, and that continued again today with the young player that took quick work of him. Some of those shots made you scratch your head. I will say this, he's coming off 2 knee surgeries. To Monica's point, he's exhausted. He's telling us, I'm not going to retire. I'm going to be better. I just need some rest. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say it isn't over yet, but maybe winning Wimbledon might be over. There's a difference, right?
Sure. Monica,
Not
you wanna
really.
add something?
I tell you what, there's a different sense of urgency. I think we all can agree with that. Even if he's not done, if he's still chasing that next major, like, listen, now's the time. Let's get to the vegan diet or whatever you're going to do. Now's the time.
Hasn't Federer earned that, though? Even if he's not going to add to 20 career
100%.
majors, he could. This is the quarterfinals of Wimbledon. It's not the first round, right, Bill Flashkey?
Yeah, but to see a champion like this go out, it's almost, for him, it's still all or nothing. We don't want to see him mucking around in quarterfinals of majors. We want to see him winning majors.
Not
We
our
do.
decision.
That's
Not
me.
our decision.
Buy or sell, too.
It's his decision, not ours.
The statement from USA Track and Field. Here's the decision they made. While our heartfelt understanding lies with Sha'Carri, we must also maintain fairness for all of the athletes who attempted to realize their dreams by securing a place in the U.S. Olympic field team. So the Federation selecting English Gardner and Aaliyah Hobbs as the two additionals for the 4x100 relay, which means Sha'Carri Richardson will not be at the Olympics, Monica McNutt, after her positive marijuana test. How'd you hear the Federation statement?
Keep your statement and exercise your sympathy. Listen, Tony, as a kid, I completed an oratorical contest, events with judges. I fell for sports because the score was very clear. Her time is the best time. The other two young ladies, while I'm sure they have worked their butts off, they only slid up in the rankings because she was eliminated. If she's available and she has the best score should go. This was an opportunity for her to receive some grace. I'm disappointed.
Jackie McMullen.
Yeah, this is a really disappointing, tough story because, as it's been proven over and over, marijuana is not a performance-enhancing drug. It's not like by taking marijuana she had an unfair advantage over anyone else in the field. And her reasons for taking that marijuana were very, for me anyway, heartfelt. Now, does the Federation feel their hands tied? Are they getting pressure from the IOC? Those are answers I don't have. But boy, this doesn't feel right.
Bill Plowski, when you read the statement, they're talking about fairness for other athletes, English Gardner, Aaliyah Hobbs. How did you handle it?
What about fairness for Richardson? In every other sport, every other athlete who's suspended for something like this, the minute they're able to come back, they're allowed to come back. Her suspension's over with. Put her on the team. They're trying to kiss the butt of the IOC. They're trying to muddle around. That's ridiculous. The U.S. Track and Field Federation pulled up lame on this one.
Pablo, how do you receive the team not siding with Richardson here?
So certainly this is misguided. Certainly this is against their best interest because there's an easy PR win for USATF here. Just put her in the hurdle team, in the relay team. That's the answer. But the thing about this organization, Tony, they are misguided, but they are consistently misguided. This is their policy. When you get suspended or disqualified because you did something at trials, they just send everybody else behind. They've done this forever. They should not do this because it prevents them from sending their best team, as Monica alluded to. But at the very least, they are consistently misguided on how they operate.
Aaliyah Hobbs, an incredible story. She was coming back from COVID. She was coming back from a false start. And English Gardner was coming back from COVID. There are amazing stories here. But you can't imagine that this team, Sha'Carri Richardson, the best numbers, as you said, Monica McNutt, the best time.
I was about to say, Tony, are you looking for a narrative? We're going for numbers here.
Whoa!
She said narrative.
I said narrative. What just happened
I cannot
here?
believe you just did that.
Okay, you knocked yourself out of the show now.
Plashke, McNutt,
Oh my
now
God.
done.
Babe.
Wow.
Torrey McMullen
Wow.
in showdown in 2 minutes. Will the cup be hoisted by Tampa?
Not hoisted yet because Carey Price, Tony, I still have faith in him as the best goaltender in the entire NHL. Had a real tough start to the series, but 32 saves in this last game to win that. I think this is far from over because of that guy.
Carey Price would need to stand on his head. And the other things the Canadians would need to do, Pablo, is continue this. That's a hockey reference. Continue this great penalty killing, which is 94. Excuse me, sir. I'm not done yet.
Please
Wait till
finish
I'm done
up.
at
Yeah, I'm
least.
just
Have
setting the table. I'm
courtesy
just
to
setting the
Wait
table.
till I am done, sir. 91% penalty killing when they were below average the rest of the year.
You were the
Now you may
beneficiary of a banned phrase when McNutt walked into one earlier. But there it is, Jackie. You told us the position of the body of the goaltender, and that's...
I will continue to call it that for the rest of my days.
We'll
sir,
move on.
regardless of
Showdown
the show.
2 when games come down.
Sent Martinez. He got right inside this dude's head, and he didn't even have to stand on his head to stop this
Jackie,
ball. That
what
is
are
a
you
great
doing?
great
Jackie,
save.
What are you doing?
I'm sorry. It's over. I'm enjoying myself.
I was gonna have to cater to Tony by just going like this and celebrating Italia, but instead I can just make fun of the fact that someone named Mina also had a breakdown because someone got in his or her head, which I
Oh
think is
my
also fair to
goodness.
say about
Oh, this is
that
just
goal.
a carnage. Take the FaceTime. Go ahead, Pablo.
So, in other news about struggling around the horn panelists, it's worth noting that the Chicago Cubs are 0-11 right now on an 11-game losing streak. And the reason, I just want to point this out, might be because Sarah Spain filled in as host of this show and then on ESPN Daily.
Oh my goodness, what is happening?
So,
Oh,